Hey, Stevie, so what's going on today with you, man?
Oh, man. Man, I kind of been under the weather a little bit, brother. Man, I feel much better today, though. Not that I've been feeling bad, just a little lingering head cold.
Oh, wow.
So, it's kind of been messing with me, but, I feel much better. What is that?
Is Fox News making you feel that way?
Man, here in Houston, Texas, you can have cold, rain, and 80 degrees all in the same day.
Oh, I hear you.
So it just catches you off guard, man. And me partying last weekend didn't help any, so.
That didn't help. There you go. I mean, for me, to be honest with you, listen, that always does it, man. Stevie, you're still young at heart. I love that, man. Listen, to me, I'll tell you what gave me a head cold today is all that crap I'm hearing about these celebrities who are paying for the kids' education. You heard about that stuff?
Yeah, I heard about that, man. I mean, I don't understand that, man. I mean, can somebody tell me this? Maybe you can tell me this. This might be right up your alley.
Okay.
I have a daughter, okay?
Right.
I'll just break it down this way.
Right.
My daughter had been bugging me about college since she was 6, 7 years old. Do you know that?
Oh, wow, that's rich.
Do you know?
That young. Wow, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a guy on the road, busting his tail,
Yeah.
So I'm putting money away in annuities and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
College funds, the whole thing. And I'm hoping, praying that maybe she'll get some scholarship offers, which that didn't happen. So all this money I put away, I had to use. Now, I told my daughter, this is how much money you have in your college fund. This is how much money you got in your trust fund, so on and so forth. Pick a college that you want to go to. She do her SATs, so on and so forth.
Nice.
And I did not care what college she went to.
Right.
I didn't care. I want you to tell me, what is it about certain parents that wants their kids to go to a certain college, even though they're not qualified to get in these schools? Why is that?
That's a damn good question, but to me, it's almost a lot of people. Now, don't get me wrong. When I went to school, did I make connections with professors? Of course. Are you going to hobnob with some of the best professors that there are in an Ivy League school, or are you going to hobnob with them in a well-known college more so than a community one? Sure, you will. But at the end of the day, you can't stop talent. You can go to any school, and still, if you immerse yourself enough, you'll succeed. But my thing is, it's like, don't they understand that once they finish studies and they're out there in the real world, don't they understand that they're on their own? And that if they didn't learn anything and they got an education paid for, they're hurting their own kids. They're sending them out to the real world more ignorant than when they came.
Well, I would like to know, why are they so enamored with this particular school?
Yeah, that's the thing, too. I don't have an answer to that.
That's the part that I understand everything you said, but that's just the part that I don't get. Whereas, even if I had $30 million liquid assets in the bank or in whatever, I'm not giving any school $500,000 to doctor up some whatever for my kid to get in this school. I'm not doing it.
It's like a cult thing, right? Like one of those cults, like Rosemary's Baby.
Now we're getting somewhere. See, that's what I wanted. I knew you would bring it out. I knew if I brought up enough stuff, you bring it out.
Are you thinking that this school is sponsored by Scientology?
I don't know, man, but give it some thought. Isn't that beyond something sane?
Yeah, but what would you do if a parent tells you right now? Let's say a parent's on the line. Lori Loughlin, who's, the Full House, she's known for Full House. She's caught in this scandal, sending her girls to the school and paying off, I think, a couple of the recruiters. What would you do if she's trying to defend herself to you and say, hey, look, Stevie, my daughter's not so bright.
Right.
And a lot of it had to do with the fact that maybe her upbringing, I was on the road a lot, just like you were.
Yeah.
And, I just...
Hey, man, what are you saying? Wait a minute, what are you saying? I was on the road a lot and my daughter's not smart enough to get to school?
Well,
That's what you said?
Your daughter's smart, but what if she told you my daughter's not smart?
Oh, well, don't blame. Then I would say don't blame it on the road.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah. That's a good point. You were on the road more than they were.
Brother, you got to know it.
From 2000
but when I was
2009,
home,
I was out in Hollywood shopping a lot of my screenplays and documentaries to ICM studios and a lot of the agencies over there, Paramount as well. Let me tell you, these guys shoot on a lot. Maybe they'll bang out about 3 or 4 episodes sometimes a week, and they're done. They'll shoot twice a week. You guys were like working every day, so.
Yeah, but it's not the time on the road that's really that bad.
Yeah.
It's the time at home where you have to make an impact.
That's true. Yeah, I gotta give you that.
My daughter, when she was little, she knew what her dad did for a living.
Right.
But we talked on the phone every day.
Right.
And when I came home, quality time. You remember?
Yeah.
I was telling you before, I never brought my job home.
Yeah, you did. You always told me that. That's right. You did.
And that was one of the reasons why.
Right.
And me and my daughter always had in-depth conversations. I always talked to her like she was older than what she was.
Right.
And tried to make her understand things that was going on in the world, what she seen on television, what's going on in, the media, pop culture, so on and so forth. And we would have conversations about it. And coming from a man would be a little different than coming from a mom.
It hurts people more. I think I've been talking to different people and interviewing some people this week, like from all walks of life, and they seem to really get pissed off that a mother could do this. Why do you think people are getting, or at least the public perception, why are they getting more annoyed that like mothers are doing this? They're caught in this scandal more so than the fathers or husbands.
It goes back to what you said earlier. It's a cultist type mentality.
Yeah. Yeah.
A cultist type mentality. Almost like I got to have this for some reason or another. And do you think a lot of it might have to do with status symbol? That's Hollywood now.
That's true. Yeah.
My kid went to USC.
Oh, wow. Great school.
No, I'm just saying, not me. I'm just saying when a parent says that.
No, I know. I'm sarcastically saying anyone like,
okay.
Speaking on behalf of them, they probably would be saying to themselves, oh, wow, your kid went to a great school, USC.
Right. There you go. There you go. And on top of that, I think a lot of people in this world, as we well know, when you see an opportunity to make money and you think you can hide it, how many people have got caught up in stuff like that?
I mean, that's the thing that you bring up that I really love. Like, you just said something really interesting. Anyone who's scratching their heads going, oh, this is some type of new scandal. Man, people do your research. Skull and Bones. Do people understand what Skull and Bones is? And to the rest of the fans, it's not the, look, I love, you're a wrestler, you should be proud of it. I loved it as entertaining as hell. But look, this goes beyond wrestling. Skull and Bones isn't that group that Undertaker had on the road with his boys. No, Skull and Bones, we're talking about President W. Bush, George W. Bush. We're talking to H.W. Bush. We're talking about Prescott, who was the grandfather of George W. Bush. We're talking about the people who funded the Skull and Bones. And there's a lot of
Averill Harriman.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you bring up another one. I mean, there's so many secrets there regarding Skull and Bones. I'll let you break it down. What your thoughts about that is. Go ahead.
I mean, John F. Kennedy did a speech on secret societies.
Yep.
But you ever notice nobody ever talks about that speech and what was he talking about? Why is that?
Right before he died, a couple of months before he got assassinated. That's true. Yep. He went on campus to deliver the speech. I remember I saw the speech. I actually told my students that to watch that speech because if you listen to it, it's probably one of the most apropos speeches he ever gave. You're right. Good call.
Why? But I want to ask you. You ever notice? No. How many times have we have seen the Martin Luther King speech, I Have a Dream? How many times?
Right. Oh,
played over and over and over again. Many people have done it in plays. Many people have done it in high schools, so on and so forth. Very, very moving speech.
Yeah, you're right.
But have you ever seen the speech that John F. Kennedy gave about secret societies ever pushed and made people think about what he was talking about?
Nobody has any clue what you're talking about, but I do. And one of those fascinating aspects of that speech was that there's a reason why it's buried.
Well, And I think that's a great. I mean, what you just said right now is the reason why. But I would like to see, our so-called, political pundits or whatever, somebody bring that up just for once. Or would you think somebody will have the guts to do it?
Just to piggyback off of what you said, the purpose of a speech applies to, if you think about all the speeches that have stood the test of time, they mean something in any era.
Right.
Whether it's the letter from Birmingham jail, whether it's the I Have a Dream speech, and of course there's so many others that people don't look at, and there's a reason why they don't get brought up. Because the talking heads are not the ones who benefit from it. God forbid if the public does. If the talking heads don't, what's the purpose of airing it? Do people know about the Time to Break Silence speech? That was delivered in Riverside Church by Martin Luther King. It was a good sermon. Mm-hmm. Nobody talks about that. It was his most controversial speech. Some of his own staff members got warned not to give it because he decisively came out against the Vietnam War.
Exactly.
The only time he decisively came out against the Vietnam War.
And that was the big mistake.
Yeah. Yep. He said, a nation that continues year after year to spend more money on military defense rather than programs is approaching spiritual death. And that sealed his fate, unfortunately.
Yes.
Sealed his fate.
Yes. And those are things when as far as the media is concerned.
Yeah.
And I'm even talking about the African American media also.
Yeah.
When you don't bring it up and then you don't chop it up, it's a problem.
I want you to expand on that.
And that's why I look at things like, who can you really trust? Who's really on your side? Who's really on board? Who really speaks for you?
Damn right.
You really don't know these days.
And I'll tell you one person you can't trust, it's Cardi B.
What?
Hey guys, we're teaching you have an education. We're also going to have some fun too. Hey listen, you can't trust Cardi B, man. You heard about what she did about drugging. She admits to drugging and robbing men years ago.
Yeah, I heard about that, man. But hey, who hasn't? You know what I say? Who hasn't? Okay?
Okay, so I got your school story. You're on one side of the spectrum and so am I. We'll respectfully disagree because it's like a lot of people are saying, well, give her props for admitting it. Well, what does that mean? She admitted it, but she still did it?
Well, it's like this, brother. When you really into somebody, they can't do any wrong.
Yeah, that's true. I guess so.
You know what I'm saying?
A lot of guys are really into Cardi B, right? Literally.
I mean, right now she's hot.
Yeah.
And anything, and with young pop culture right now, especially hip hop culture, so on and so forth. Man, we in an age of no return. They don't care. And they'll never care.
I don't think people who are
so don't try to get them too good. Only older people will sit back and discuss that.
That's true.
Younger people be like, whatever, bro.
They don't care. It's funny. The older people seem to care, and you're right about that because just teaching, I could tell you that a lot of my students don't give a rat's ass. But it's interesting that when you talk about the Cardi B thing and people are like, oh wait a minute, there's no statute of limitations. She admitted this. It's a felony. Hey people. She's sponsored by the Me Too movement. Can we just be honest here? I mean,
but I'm just a firm believer in nothing happens by accident. So for this to come out while it's coming out right now, to me, is something behind it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, why would I admit that I did something horrible towards somebody, and I really don't have to?
I mean, but do you agree with the whole double standard about people are making this like it's a gender thing? The male, what if a male was in her shoes and admitted this? How maybe
that's the test.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the data. Maybe that's the data somebody is seeking right now.
What do you mean?
Just to see how strong it is on one side than the other.
Yeah. But
I'm sorry.
Like, yeah. I mean,
I know what you're saying. And I'm 100% with you.
Right.
But let me put you in this position. Mm-hmm. If you were her PR person or somebody working with her as far as her image goes,
right,
you're going to do everything on earth to keep stuff like that from coming to the surface. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
Of course. So you're saying it's one of those, well, you know what, maybe she could benefit. Did you think it was bad PR advice? Who knows?
It's always the guy behind the curtain, the minds behind the curtain that we don't see, that's really doing the thinking.
Right.
We all know she was a stripper. We all know she was, who knows? I mean, how many times you've heard about the hip-hop guy? Well, I sold drugs, I did this. I mean, right. Jay-Z, for example.
Right.
Now he's hobnobbing with presidents.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because a lot of people seem to say, well, anyone with the right, head on the right set of, if you don't have a good head on your shoulders, you can't separate the fact that it's a character, it's a gimmick, it's for the music, it's for the fans, and therefore if it sells, hey, listen, free enterprise, I understand all that. We get it. The only thing I have a problem with is the fact that people seem to automatically say that if you're on that spotlight, whether you like it or not, you're carrying the role of being a role model, which is something I remember Barkley years ago was against. They tried to prep him up as a role model. He decided he wasn't. I never asked you your take about that. Is that something you kind of took liberty with, or did you kind of agree as someone who was seen on everyone's television sets Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Sundays? Did you find that to be almost something reprehensible from the state, or do you agree with that?
I don't need an athlete to show me how to be a man. So coming up as a kid, the last person I looked to try to emulate or show how to be a certain kind of way is an athlete. In the African-American community, we have that bad. Just because somebody is an athlete, that's who we're supposed to inspire to be like, which I think is bullcrap. Because just watching somebody play a game doesn't necessarily mean that's a good person.
Growing up in New York, though, I got to say, and I remember telling you this, going to like an all-black high school, I can only count maybe 2 Caucasian friends on my hand. That means nothing. It just means that that's how I was raised. But almost all my friends are Hispanic and black. And I can honestly tell you, though, there wasn't football programs in some of the high schools I went to. There weren't art programs. There weren't music programs. I feel like if a kid is growing up, and that's all he has to reach for, and he sees someone successful, attain respect, influence, finances, power, and he's able to do that through sports, you could kind of understand why they vicariously live through that.
And I do understand that, but that only goes so far.
Yeah.
Because now you start looking at sport as religion.
Yeah.
In a really kind of messed up minded way. That is the only way that I can be successful and looked at as a man that's giving something back to his community is to be an athlete. I have a problem with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's true, but I mean, here's what I'm trying to say though. If there are options that aren't in front of an individual who may not be getting the type of benefits that someone from another ethnic group gets.
That's where parenting, mentors, things of that nature come in handy that I had when I was growing up.
There you go. I agree with that. With that. Yeah.
Even the church, okay?
Yeah.
Even the church played a major part in African American communities at a different time. Now, church is theater.
Are you talking about the whole? When you think about church, it used to be 20% up until 1972. 20% of church in America was evangelism. I mean, do you think now it's risen? You think that it's more Is that their way of getting people into the church now?
Church is just another way to me to influence people to go to church. But for what? What are we teaching?
Right.
Because in my communities, within, here in Houston, in a certain how many mile, I did a thing on this a month or so ago when I had to go speak at a Stop the Violence deal on the side of town which I grew up.
Oh wow!
It's like 20 some hundred churches.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's a church on every corner, but yet people are still killing each other in the community. So what is the church for?
Almost like a wash. When you think
There's way more churches than schools.
Yeah. Okay, you know what?
So what's going on?
What the hell? No, hold on. You tell me. What do you think? What do you think the reason for that is? Is that
because I think churches, preachers, everybody in that church is a business now, just like everything else in America.
Interesting.
It is a capitalistic business. That's it. What I can extract from the community, that is what I'm going to do.
If it's spilling down to the church, if we're talking about this corruption that's all reared its ugly head, I guess universally in churches as well, then what else do we have to draw upon for motivation?
Well, frankly, I've never gone to any other churches other than the African American church. I can't speak on the, other religions, so on and so forth, in other communities. But how many of these big, giant super churches have we seen pop up all over the United States as far as African Americans go?
Yeah, 1:30 in the morning on infomercials, you find out a lot.
And you see these churches got a zillion people in them.
Yeah.
It's big, almost as big as a small arena. Okay, thousands of people, thousands of members. But where does the capital come from just for the land to build a building like that?
Absolutely.
What kind of investors do you have for something like that?
Well,
I will tell you this, Avi.
I got a note before this whole thing started, but I don't give a crap. Since you brought it up, I'm going to say this. I'm looking right. I'm sorry, I got to say this to them. Hey, in the case of Scientology, it's Hollywood. They're the ones who back Scientology.
I wouldn't know anything.
Their land.
And they have a right to do that. But I was talking about the black church, not the Scientology church, okay?
Okay.
In the black church, we got these super churches that have popped up all over the United States. And now, these churches, just the land alone is millions of dollars. To get the thing built is millions of dollars. It's another way for white corporations invest in stuff like that, invest in white banks, invest in white whatever they're investing it in, but yet none of the money goes back into the black community. I got a problem with that. And I'm not afraid to say it. So whenever you see these guys with these big billion-dollar churches with all these people in them, and it's a black church, if we can come up with that kind of money for something like that, you tell me we can't come up with something for schools to educate young black people, our own black people?
You have a problem with the black church's role in advancing African-American wealth. The black church brings in $14 billion a year. $14 billion.
Yet none of it goes back into the community.
Where's the money getting funneled from? That's the question.
That's my point.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing on this earth happens by osmosis.
No.
So, it's another way for investors to invest in something, get a return on it, but yet we're getting poorer and poorer.
And what bothers me is a lot of the black churches as well, they have extensive ministries, yet they operate some of the small soup kitchens, clothing, closet areas for the poor. And that's
okay.
Well, yeah, it's okay, but when you're talking about a $14 billion
exactly
investment that gets funneled, you have to ask yourself, well, wait a minute, where's this money going for? Is it really going to the needy? The answer is no.
Okay, Avi, if you invested in me,
yeah,
and I'm a preacher or whatever, evangelist or whatever,
yeah,
and you get some of your contacts, and you guys find a place in Houston, and you make sure to invest in this big, giant, super church.
Yeah.
Now, Avi, if you invested in me, you telling me you don't want your money back?
There's a difference between an investment and philanthropy. Goodwill to fellow men, right?
Exactly.
Let's use the term philanthropy. If you're going to be a philanthropist, the definition of that is goodwill to fellow men, especially active effort to promote human welfare.
I understand that too, but that's not what's happening in my community.
Right. No, I agree.
Because that your investment is to make money. Period.
And you're telling me that you see that locally as well?
I see that all over the country. It's a known fact.
Wow.
It's a known fact. None of that money from these super churches is going back into black communities.
Right. Now,
they might go out and help with this and, little things like that. But if it's a super church, it should be super things going on within this church for the community. But that's why I say church is theater.
It's a really good
So many people are wooed by just the extravaganza of the church. Right. And they forget about what the church is supposed to be for.
You're saying the show in a way kind of hoodwinks people. The presentation of it all. Yeah.
Yes.
That's interesting. To be honest, I'm going to actually tell you, you just taught me something because I never thought about that. I really didn't. I'm being honest with you. A smart man doesn't say he thought about everything. A smart man learns from something he never thought about. So I never thought about that. I think there's a couple of reasons. I mean, correct me. I'm going to give you a couple of reasons, and we'll move on. But I want to ask you about this. There's a couple of reasons why I think the black church maybe lacks influence in the community. Failure to make faith and life intersect.
That could be true.
How do the scriptures inform people about economics? How do the scriptures inform people about marriages? There needs to be an understanding of how faith and life intersect.
Right.
How about systematic injustice? Black communities in the inner city, the way they are, if you think about the black communities that are in the inner city, the way they are because of decisions that were made years ago, whether it was poor and inadequate housing or the choice to build freeways over thriving neighborhoods, most of the problems just boil down to systematic injustice.
Period. But I think so many people in our communities have gotten away from what the churches actually used to be for. Everybody knew their pastor, and their pastor went out of his way to help the community in every way, shape, or form he could, not just extract every nickel and dime for me to drive a Bentley.
Right. You think that's because there's no leadership pipeline?
No, I think over time, so many people has bought into the system of which we live in.
Right. Right. I agree.
And they do not have any ethics or morals when it comes to, hey, I'm a preacher, I should be getting this. And they forget about what the church is really, really for sometimes.
Exactly.
Then again, I'm not going to say what they forget. They just don't care.
A lot of it is the pie in the sky mentality, where there's nothing wrong to aim at heaven. You'll get, you aim at heaven, and that's where you'll go. You'll be all right when we get there. And the mentality of a lot of the people is, well, why should we do anything now?
Well,
seeking heaven is not an excuse to be passive.
But a lot of people, when they go to their church, their mind is in a totally different world. When you preach what you just got through saying, when you preach that, when you get here, this is going to be this. When you get here, this is going to be this. And people need that on a weekly basis. Not myself, but other people do. I talk to people all the time about this. And I really don't know how we got on it, but since we're on it, and I always say to people, I think I want my heaven right here.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I think I want my
people. People don't have a vision beyond Sunday morning?
Well, if my thing is to wait for you to tell me what I already know, then what the hell am I listening to you for?
That's a damn good point. Let me ask you a question.
I don't want to wait. I don't want to wait for heaven. I want my heaven right here. I want my heaven on earth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you been listening to Mueller?
Who?
Mueller.
No, I haven't. I don't listen to evangelists at all.
Well, there's a couple of evangelists that I feel, if you think about it, have the power and the influence to reach more people. But again, at the end of the day, what separates us from God are the materialistic things in life. That's what separates us.
Yeah, that's true. And some of the guys in my community, they preach it every day because that's what they want.
Right.
What I'm saying is, in the African American community, I just think we should wake up to a lot of things that we're getting played on because of our emotions. Because of, you've been devastated so long and you're looking for an outlet. Some people look for outlets in drugs. Some people look for outlets in alcohol. Some people look for outlets in that Sunday morning listening to that sermon.
Sure.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But if that's being anecdotal, something is wrong.
I completely agree with you 100% about that. I also think that if you really want to talk about influence that African Americans receive from the white media, it's almost because of the fact that African Americans were told, you have a couple of heroes you can look up to, but you don't have any more, which is a false narrative. Because that's not just the media, that's this country's way of keeping people in check.
Well, that's the media. The media is designed to brainwash.
Absolutely.
I mean, the media is designed to do exactly what it does.
Where do you get your news then if you just decide to tune out? Because what you hear is definitely something that you know has.
Well, the thing is, I look at the media just like entertainment, same way I look at pro wrestling. I mean, you look at this Mueller investigation that's going on for 2 years, and that so many political pundits have talked about on a daily basis. The round table that we got this guy coming in to talk about this. We got this guy coming in to talk. Tonight we have so-and-so talking about this. 365 days a year, everybody been talking. That's theater.
We had Black History Month last month, and every other classroom, I got reprimanded for this, but I really didn't care. I taught them about Robert Smalls. You know who Robert Smalls was?
Actually, I'm not familiar with him. I've heard the name before, though.
His heroics convinced Lincoln to accept African American soldiers into the Union Army.
Okay. I've never heard the name before.
He was actually part of the House of Representatives for South Carolina.
Right.
He had a lot of influence. And the interesting story about him was he was an enslaved African American. He was assigned to work for I think he steered the Confederate transport CSS Planter during the American Civil War. It was either Planter, it actually was CSS Planter. And in 1862, while the ship's 3 white officers were spending the night ashore, Smalls dressed as a captain, along with most other enslaved crewmen, and he sailed the Planter out of the southern wharf. He sailed the ship to another nearby wharf where he got his own family. He retrieved them, along with families of other crew members. He saved 275 African-American lives by doing that, by putting his life on the line.
Wow.
And as a result, he became the first African-American Union soldier. But he wasn't there as someone who was in combat. He was there as a moral leader for the cause, which is why President Lincoln realized he needs to accept him. Everything back then was even political. People are always going to be people. But it's a name you don't get here mentioned often.
Even books are designed to influence the human mind.
Yes.
Especially the young human mind.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you don't get, being an African American, if you don't see anything in books that cortels to you, other than a couple of things here and there, not something as substantial as what you just talking about with Mr. Smalls.
Right.
But everything else, except for a couple of things here and there, it is showing you that you are inferior.
That gives into acceptance in a way.
Exactly. And you don't even know it. And somebody from another community, it is showing you that you are what you are and supposed to be. And you don't even know it.
Stepping outside of that not only could be daunting, but once you make that leap, you have to look back and go, look how many people didn't do so because they were brainwashed or told they can't.
Right. All right. So you go along to get along. And like I said, these are some of the conversations I used to have with my daughter when she was 6, 7, 8 years old.
Wow, that's amazing. That says a lot. I mean, and do you feel like if it was your cause, if you were given a platform, do you feel like this is something you would want to speak about continuously just because you can reach?
Oh, I do all the time.
Yeah. I know.
I do all the time.
I want you to mention that. That's why I brought it up. I know you do.
Yeah, I do all the time. Just like when I was at the Stop the Violence and everybody was talking about what we need to stop doing. They asked me to speak, I didn't really want to.
Right.
Because, but I went and did it anyway because a couple of my good friends put it together. But I didn't speak long, and I just got up there, because they had a lot of Nation of Islam guys there that were talking. That's pretty much running everything. And I got nothing against those guys.
Yeah.
But what I talked about, what I got up and said, I said, it's one thing to talk about what we need to do. It's another thing to talk about how did things get to how they are.
There's something I wanted to bring up to you. Do you have an issue with some of the athletes that did have a platform globally, African-American athletes of the past, even someone like a Michael Jordan who never really took a stance?
Have no respect for him. None.
None, huh?
None. Zero.
Of course, you talk about the labor and the Nike issue. We don't have to even talk about that. But I meant more or less just to say, hey, look, I have a voice. And Michael Jordan's one of the few people that can reach all ethnic groups.
Earlier in this conversation, you talked about athletes being role models.
Yes.
And you heard what I said when it comes to athletes being role models. Now you see what I'm talking about when it comes to a person like Michael Jordan. See the difference?
Right.
Because if a guy like him don't stand up for you, who will?
That's genius with how you did that. I agree with you. I mean, yeah, so to me, again, it's not something you're going to forcefully ask someone to stand up for. But this is just for our listeners, just for hearsay. Let's say you're in a room with Jordan, you guys are just talking, the two of you, and like, I guess you've built some kind of a camaraderie where you feel like you can ask each other something. Would you, if you brought something like that up, or if he brought something like that up, if he said to you, how about this? You seem like a humble guy, and you're not going to obviously try to start any kind of trouble. But if he said to you, hey, Stevie, you don't have any, like, disrespect that I never used my voice to reach out, or maybe to definitely stop social injustice. You don't think worse of me because of that, do you? How would you respond to that? Ask you something like that.
I would say, with all due respect, I do.
Okay.
Now, you don't hold anything against me for thinking that way, do you?
No, I don't. I'd like to hear you elaborate.
By the mere fact that it's not just me and him in the room, I wouldn't.
No, I mean,
because I would kill the buzz of this whole gathering.
Right. So, Stevie, it's torturous to be in it. Like, it's almost living inside yourself can probably be kind of maddening because you have to bite your tongue a lot.
Yes.
Well, not here, man. No,
but and I know when to talk and when not to. That's what my mother taught me as a kid. You know what I'm saying? My mother used to always say, boy, if you don't know what you're talking about, shut up and listen. Right.
Well, I mean, I completely agree with you. What else is there anything else that's going on? There's so much going on this week in the news. Is there something that kind of caught your attention that you felt like you wanted to talk about? I mean, there's so many things. It could be something trivial. It could be something that's monumental. Anything?
No, I mean, like I say, the college thing with the actors and actresses really, it goes to show you right there. It goes to show you right there how we put entertainers on pedestals, okay?
Yeah.
And they can come out of interviews and say so much of the right stuff, and it's almost like idol worshiping for people. That's why you see so many shows that talk about entertainers now. Back in the day, it used to be one show that came on once a week and talked about what entertainers were going through, and that show was Entertainment Tonight. You remember that?
Yeah, now you have so many.
Might be a little bit before your time, but Entertainment Tonight.
Entertainment Tonight, yeah. I remember the
it came. No, I'm talking about when it first came on. It was like the first show that really talked on a weekly basis.
Yeah. Yep.
Every night, 6:30, my time, probably like 4:30 your time.
Yep.
But now, fast forward 40 years, 35 years, whatever.
Yeah.
Fast forward, and you got an Entertainment Tonight type show on from the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to bed, just like sports shows.
Yeah, it's called CNN.
Yeah, all of them, all the 24-hour news things. You know what I'm saying? You see how things have changed? So when it comes to people like that,
respected leader in worldwide news such as CNN would just lower itself to becoming nothing more than another
that's the only way.
Network.
You got to realize though, CNN consolidated with who?
Consolidation had something to do with it, but you know what else had something to do with it? Ratings. And you know what else?
Well, I understand that. But you remember when Ted Turner started CNN, it was about news, okay?
24 hours.
But when CNN consolidated with Time Warner, everything changed.
Yep, you're right.
Everything changed. Now we're in the news thing, but we're in the ratings thing now. Because CNN, but then again, maybe they were moving toward that way anyway. Maybe the merger just cemented it,
Right.
Because I think they were moving that way anyway, because I was having a conversation with, matter of fact, I came home yesterday, and I have a little lingering head cold, but it wouldn't come. So I got some Theraflu and I took it, and it made me go to sleep. So that's why I was up late last night, because once I got up, I couldn't go back to sleep. So I was talking on the phone with my buddy. He and I are putting my podcast back together, and we was coming up with some ideas about different things, so on and so forth. And we started talking in some kind of way. We got on the O.J. Simpson trial.
Right.
And he had seen one of my episodes from my other podcast that I just stopped doing, and he saw me talking about
CNN was the very first network to actually consistently report on the trial, also live.
Right, and that's how we got on.
So
that's how we got on CNN. We were talking about them last night.
Yep.
And we were talking about how they covered the O.J. Simpson trial.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was asking me about some of the things I was saying about the O.J. Simpson trial. And I was telling him.
More entertaining, Stevie, than at General Hospital and Bold and the Beautiful.
Well, the thing was, you got to realize what we were talking about. We was actually talking about what you and I are talking about right now. How the news can woo people's perception.
Sure.
Like Malcolm X said, the media can make an innocent man look guilty and a guilty man look innocent. It's that powerful.
Completely true.
Malcolm X said that back in the mid-'60s.
Yes, he did.
So,
Yep.
And I was telling him about a couple of books, because you got to realize I'm on the road at that time, so I'm watching the trial every day in my hotel room before I go to the gym. After I come back from the gym and stuff like that, then I go to the building and wrestle. Then I come home, and now I'm looking at CNN. And I was swearing to God, I said, am I crazy? I know I got a good perception of things. I'm not the dumbest guy in the world. But what I'm listening to right now is not what I've seen in court today, because I watched it. And I'm saying, wait, maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am. You know what I'm saying? So, and then after everything was over with, and years later, I heard other people saying this, and I'm like, I knew I wasn't stupid. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But they made me believe I didn't even see what I thought I saw.
And
but I knew I saw.
For the record, fans, Stevie Ray is one of the smartest guys I know, and that's true. I don't kiss that. I'm just being honest.
I don't know how smart I am, but I see things clearly, commonly. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So we started talking about that, and I was like, that is one of the shows, because I want to get a couple. I read a couple of guys' books. The main detective, Michael Kenner.
Yep.
That was on that trial for the defense, and Doctor. Oh God, I can't think of his name right now. He's a doctor out of Chicago. Him and his brother, they are into forensics, and they did they wrote a book about the whole thing also, and they also did I think it's like a documentary on the whole thing that you can get on.
They did.
One of the I don't know where you can get stuff like that at.
You're digging.
But
that's true. You're right.
So I read both of those guys' material, and it is unbelievable that so much of the stuff that came out in court never came out on CNN.
Right.
If you just got home from work and you watched CNN and you listened, you wouldn't know this was talked about in court today.
No, absolutely. Because it was continuous day to day, you couldn't really miss anything. You couldn't afford to if you were invested in the trial.
Right. But like I said, I was watching the trial every day.
Yep.
I don't work a 9 to 5.
On this date, 14 years ago, at age 67, a man who actually was very infamous and attached to the O.J. Simpson case died 14 years ago on this day, Johnny Cochran.
Johnny Cochran.
And I think a lot of people need to start realizing that Johnny Cochran is not, I spoke about this with my co-host Jarrell, and I told him that Johnny Cochran has been painted almost as if he's the most heelish character ever. I mean, being a lawyer is almost like being a heel in pro wrestling, in the sense that you think about it.
Goes back to the media.
It goes back to the media, but it also sometimes you have to sort of let the media mold you as they will. Because if that's what they're going to do, you might as well realize you can't fight it. So the best thing to do is not to submit to the image they create, but rather keep practicing your practice. And that's what Johnny Cochran did. But here's why Johnny Cochran, people, again, false narrative. People don't want to talk about his earlier career. Do people understand what kind of a part he played in the civil rights movement? Do people understand that he took 28 pro bono cases from African Americans that he pushed forward in the 1960s?
The thing is,
that he was inspired by Thurgood Marshall and the legal victory that Marshall won in Brown versus Board of Education. Do people
exactly? But if you're waiting for the media, especially the media after the O.J. Simpson trial, to tell you this, you'll never hear it.
Yeah, that's true. What the hell was I thinking?
That's not their job.
Yeah.
Their job is to demagogue. Because, going back to what you said, I need ratings.
That's right. But this goes
And
to
the easiest thing in the
African-American friends who are listening, who have told me, and some of them are actually in Hollywood as producers. I'm going to mention one of them, but not by name. Saw the movie Get Out. I know you're listening to this. Stop painting African-Americans who succeed as being either Uncle Toms or as being, I know this is controversial, but I'm just going to say this. If you really want to do your research, like Stevie said, don't go by what the TV tells you. Don't go by what the media tells you. You want to talk about who Johnny Cochran was? Johnny Cochran spent $15,000 of his own dollars in 1964 to represent an African-American widow who sued 6 police officers who shot and killed her husband, Leonard Deadweiler, during the riots. Yes, there were plenty of riots in the 60s too.
Yeah.
He took an African-American widow who had no money and a mortgage to pay because her dead husband were beat by several cops. And Johnny Cochran spent $15,000 of his own money. So when people want to just paint a false narrative, look at the whole picture before you do so. That's just my opinion, Stevie. That's just my opinion.
And there's nothing wrong with that because facts are facts. Because you did your own research.
What's that word?
You did your own research.
What does that word mean? I don't think people research? Is that a word that's taught?
you know, like I used to always tell my daughter, life didn't start the day you were born.
But on the Cochran thing, not to stay too much on it, all I want to say is he litigated a number of high-profile police brutality cases.
Oh, most definitely.
So bravo to him, and to anyone who wants to vilify him, know your facts. That's it.
But the thing I have a problem with when it comes to situations like that, that parts of America cannot believe that police forces around this country can be corrupt, brutal, and every other negative name you can name for them.
Yeah.
And they've gotten away with this stuff for 100 years.
Yep.
That's the problem. And you know who I heard say this?
Good point.
That he couldn't fathom it? Peter Neufeld. You know who he is?
Yep, I actually do. Go ahead.
Him and his partner, Barry Scheck. You know who he is.
No,
this is what they said. That they can't fathom that white America cannot fathom the fact. Now people see all this stuff, here it is 20 years later, and people see all this stuff coming out on cell phone videos and stuff like that now. And people think in white communities, especially upper, affluent people,
yep, absolutely,
that this just started today. It is old as the crucifixion. And I know everybody know when the crucifixion happened.
Right.
It is as old as the crucifixion.
Damn good point.
But because of that inter-teaching from childhood, you won't go there mentally. Because you got to realize, in our communities, the police are not there to help us, to serve us. They are there to keep us there, just like the sheepdog did for the shepherd.
Damn right.
And his herd.
Damn right.
That's what they're there for.
Damn right.
Nobody ever admit it. Nobody ever admit it. But when you go if you go downtown in any police department in the continental United States of America, in any major city, when you go down to pay a ticket, you see nothing but black and brown people, 90% of them.
Right.
Now, you telling me all these people outnumber the upper middle class and affluent in these cities. That's what you're telling me. They can't. They're minorities.
And that's the word I was going to tell you. Then that contradicts the very term and the very essence of the word minority.
Exactly.
Yep.
So in essence, the police department, everything is designed to do the same thing pirates did back in the day. And you know how a pirate got all of his riches. Absolutely. Exactly.
It's interesting that you bring that up too, because there's so many things that people want to compare and contrast all the time. I was talking to a friend of mine about what happened in Kent State. Interestingly enough, 2 of the people that actually got killed, that weren't even reported in terms of the fact that they got killed, were people that were pro-Vietnam War, and they were 2 African-American Marines that just came back and were protesting in favor. of the
Are
war.
you talking about when they opened fire on the kids back in what, 74?
They opened fire on them. It was 72. They opened fire on them, and what happened was two young women and two young men got killed, but two African Americans who were the pro war, they were killed 2 days afterwards due to injuries in the hospital, and they never got reported.
Okay.
Their deaths were never reported on, but there was a reason.
Okay.
Because even the media back then were trying to craft an image the way that Dan Rather and Walter Cronkite in South Vietnam wanted to portray a certain image of brutality, which is definitely true. Don't get me wrong. It's not, you can't sugarcoat anything. But even back then, the media knew that they can construct a narrative and push it any way they want to. So if no African Americans were killed in Kent State, guess what? There wouldn't be such a backlash, which is why their deaths were never reported. They didn't want to put more fuel to the fire, so they died in vain. This is just the unknown stuff that no one talks about.
Yeah, never will. They want this stuff to go away and never come up again.
Never.
Because if people really gave a little interest to our history, then they would understand some of the things that's going on today.
When it happened in the spring of 70, a lot of people reported only 5 shots. Really what it turned out to be was 67 rounds over a period of 13 seconds. So 2 of the security guards reloaded 3 times and kept shooting.
Unbelievable.
And they walked scot-free. You better believe it.
Unbelievable.
Scot-free. Because a lot of people want to bring up the fact that, well, if you think about how it happened, who was involved, 2 security guards took it upon themselves to get in on it. Yeah, the National Guard, they were the ones who were held accountable. But 2 security guards reloaded twice and emptied out, if I'm not mistaken, I think they emptied out like 23 shells.
What sane man would give an order to do that?
They took it upon themselves.
You think so?
At least back then they were naive to what the power of the media could construct. But little do they know that the media was still on their side back then, because according to the media, they fit the color that the media definitely preferred, which was white.
Right.
And again, I'm speaking the truth here. If anyone's conservative, hey, I got conservative friends, and liberal, conservative, what does it matter? The point is we're human. But if anyone wants to argue facts, when you talk about injustice in terms of socially speaking,
right.
If you look at our history, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Women, African Americans, people that want to use the term held down, I don't use the term held down. I use the term locked out. There's a difference between when you're being held down, for the most part, you're trying to resist, like when an assailant breaks into your home and he holds you down. You're trying to struggle. But being locked out means you just realize you're not getting in. And that was the mentality. People just consented and go, all right, why are we even bother going to try to have an education or have a voice in this world or in this country when we're being locked out? It's that simple.
Yeah. You know, and it's like you was talking about things that's going on in the media today.
Yeah.
Like the thing with this Michael Jackson leaving Neverland deal.
Right.
I'm like, we are sitting here talking about the media and their ratings.
Yeah.
Something like this, to me, just this is, I've never seen anything like this, bro.
Me neither. It's insane.
I've never seen anything like this. And people know if I put something in, okay, you're an educator. When a kid comes in with a book report and he just turns it in on paper, you know, it's like, okay, let me look at it and see how it goes. Oh, pretty written. This report written pretty good.
Right.
But then you get the other kid that types it up very well, puts it in a very colorful binder. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Got a very, very sexy, title on the front of it, and then you open it up. Did you see the difference?
Absolutely. He's trying to impress me based on presentation.
That's my point.
Style.
That is what I look at with this Neverland thing.
That's a good analogy. I like that.
Now, by being put in documentary form,
right,
and by the fact that nobody can refute what you're saying all these years later, and then after that you do a little program being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey,
right,
which submits it's got to be true because Oprah Winfrey is on stage interviewing you. If somebody can't see that is the most contrived, put together, similar to the book report I just described. You have to be crazy.
The crystal clear examination about exactly what we're dealing with. You're saying that, in essence, what we're doing is we're trusting the people that we've either seen on screen or heard about because we feel like if they've succeeded based on their reputation, monetary value, and popularity, they must be credible.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good point.
Okay, if I have been molested, Michael Jackson died in what, 2009 or 2010?
2009, yeah.
Okay. 10 years. And I can't just come out like Corey Feldman did when Corey Feldman said, you know,
Right.
there is a legion of people that prey on young boys in Hollywood. He didn't do a documentary.
Nope.
He just put it out there
for
years.
Yep.
And nobody's cared. These guys do a documentary and it blows the whole world up. You see the difference?
Absolutely.
They knew that.
Absolutely.
They knew that. And now, so even though the guy that got off on trial, even though when you went to trial, Robeson, you said Michael Jackson never touched me. So,
right.
So here it is, I don't know how many years later, I don't know how old he was when all that went down. And I don't know what the statutes of limitation are. But you committed perjury.
Absolutely.
And now you want to be taken at your word?
Amazing point. Amazing point. Amazing point. Something that should be discussed and monitored constantly regarding this case, because that right there, go ahead and said pretty much you did one of two things. You either committed perjury or you're flip-flopping. Which one is it?
Yeah, which makes, if anybody's not credible of all people, it's you.
Yeah. Very, very big props to you for bringing up the Corey Feldman case. And I don't really care. I'm looking right now at somebody. I'm just going to say this too. Hey, Joel Schumacher, who did Lost Boys, screw you. Because even though it was unsaid, it's kind of known that you caused Brad Renfro to kill himself because of some of the molestation you did to this kid when he was 12. And you did the same thing to Corey Haim, who, by the way, also died at a relatively young age in his 40s.
And your boy Feldman talked about that.
Shame on you, Joel Schumacher. Shame on you. And shame on you for taking those European vacations and sometimes going to South and Central America and doing the same thing to younger kids, and who knows what else you're doing to them. So screw you, too.
Wow. Unbelievable. I think I heard Corey Feldman, I can't, remember exactly what he said verbatim, but he was saying something like his boy, I guess him and Corey Haim were boys,
Oh, yeah, they were close. They got into the business around the same age, yeah. Yep.
And he was saying that your boy Haim never got over that stuff.
Admittedly, the young girl who became a megastar from E.T., a lot of people know who she is, and I don't know why her name escapes me now at this minute, but
Drew Barrymore?
Barrymore, yeah. She's said it many times that she smoked her first joint when she was 6 because she was at some celeb party where her parents were told to wait outside because they were just trying to flaunt the new star of E.T. She did her first line of coke when she was 10. I mean, this stuff's documented. I mean, she's went on record to say this. So,
right.
Pedophilia and the social media and digital age didn't exactly blend together the way a lot of people who were against it thought they would. Actually, the digital age helped pedophilia thrive even more.
Unbelievable, man.
You're still seeing a lot of these guys employed.
Yeah.
Bryan Singer's he directed X-Men. He's still working and getting a paycheck.
So that means, I don't know how true, I ain't going to say I don't know how true, but what I'm saying is, apparently this stuff goes way deeper, and you think about it, maybe that's why Corey Feldman never has had a real voice.
Absolutely. He never had a real voice. They've always quieted him down when he tried to talk about this.
You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
If you are you do documentaries.
Yeah.
You telling me you couldn't take Corey Feldman? Or either Corey Haim when they were alive, and do a documentary and talk about some of all the treachery.
Right.
Okay?
Wouldn't even see the light of day, a documentary like that. Unless I wanted to show it to my friends at home, it wouldn't get.
You'll never get it. You'll never get it financed.
Nope. If I'm lucky, I'll get outside financing from overseas, international distribution. But guess what? It'll be shelved for years upon years.
But the thing with Michael Jackson, who made a zillion people $1 zillion.
Right. Right.
You do him like this, which means there's a different agenda going on here.
Absolutely.
On top of that, you got Oprah Winfrey involved. I got no respect. I look at Oprah Winfrey the same way I look at Michael Jordan. I respect you for everything you've done when it comes to what she's done in the media with her show, this, that, and the other, uplifting people, so on and so forth. But you know when she lost me?
When?
You lost me the day you put Mark Furman on your show and made him look like a hero.
Oh, right.
And this man in the words of Peter Neufeld and Barry Sheck, is a genocidal racist.
Genocidal is the key word. If anyone heard exactly what was on
that's exactly how they put it.
Tapes. Wow.
That's exactly how they put it. A genocidal racist.
It's on tape. It's on tape. This isn't hearsay. It's not speculation. It's on tape.
Because you got to realize, though, the tapes of which he was talking on, the media and the people in the court, even the juror, only got to hear a little clip.
Of course.
If you take all the hours and add them up together, I've listened to them, okay? And I know there's no way Oprah Winfrey's going to have a show like this and you haven't listened to them. So that means somebody has put you in position. Somebody has put you in position and told you have to do this because that's your job.
That's a damn good point.
Okay? And then you get on the show and make this man look like he's a victim. Okay? Whereas this man,
what did she gain from that, though? Here, that's my question.
But see, that's the thing. This is the thing that people don't understand when it comes to African American entertainers when they get to a certain level. Once you get to a certain level, being an African American entertainer, you are just the black bourgeois of the United States of America, in the United States.
Explain that, because I can't. You've been there as far as being around that atmosphere. What does that mean?
So in essence, once you get to a certain level, you can't bring anybody else with you.
Right.
Oprah Winfrey is a billionaire. She got enough money to start girls' school educations in every state in the continental United States and the Union. Where does she choose to do school at? Africa.
Right.
Does anybody see anything wrong with that picture?
I see it as someone who's trying to build a political career and create a portfolio.
I see someone saying you can do for your own people, but not in the United States of America. I see that.
Yeah, because she wants to build a political portfolio.
You know what I'm saying? But it could be politically and keeping your status all at the same time.
You're right. So
because once you get
politically and domestically, it doesn't have to be something.
Yeah. Once you get to that level, you cannot reach back.
Right.
Once you get to that level, if we want to paint a picture of Mark Furman and take the real screen off him as the negativity screen, who do we use? Now, do you honestly believe if I was hosting a show, Mark Furman could have came on my show with any kind of relaxation about himself? Really?
No, and on the spin, and if you want to spin it too, had he went on a white talk show host program, it would have had any effect.
Now you see what I'm talking about.
When Oprah gave him the rub, so to speak,
right?
Everyone sighed a breath. They pretty much.
There you go.
Okay, if Oprah is definitely glad-handing him, so should we.
Exactly.
Social acceptance.
Now you see the picture.
Absolutely. Stevie Ray could also be an investigator. The way he pieces things. I'm serious about this. The way you piece things together, you do it in such a way where you build it to a crescendo, and then boom, you hit us with it. I love it.
God,
You're trying to on purpose, man. You got something going on here, Stevie. I just got to tell you that. I have to ask you something about this. This is just something that kind of it stirs me up, and I guess it stirs up the liberals, but it stirs me up for a different reason. Because poor guy. This thing, I got to talk about it before it becomes old news. It's kind of become old news already. But early last week, Dwayne Johnson had a tank named after him, and he said he was proud of that, and it's great, and he can't wait for the tank to kick some butt. And the liberal agenda was all over him. This goes to show you, listeners, that we're not conservative or liberal. We just speak the truth. We can bash a conservative and also bash the liberals at the same time. But
hey, before you continue, I want to say this.
Please.
To the liberal and the conservative, okay?
Please.
Come join my team.
I did.
You want to be on the winning team, join my team, I like
your team. I like to call the team of truth, but there's not many.
Hey, at the end of the day, was Jesus liberal or conservative?
What do you think?
Jesus was what he was.
He was what he was. Was what he was. He didn't try to fit into a certain mold. You're right. He was what he was.
And I love that.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Again, the way you're kind of tying in these analogies makes sense because anyone could relate to what you just said. You brought it back to the very beginning of time, the basics. But again, with this whole thing with Duane, what can people stop this? You and I just talked about a couple of issues that people should invest in.
Right.
We spent this whole time on the podcast, that we'll wrap up soon. People mention this in time. I mean, we just probably talked about 5 hot topic issues that should command people's attention. And yet this is what people wake up to and have a problem with? That's my own opinion, but I want to hear yours.
I mean, okay. The airplane, B-52 bomber, if I'm not, if I'm correct, I don't remember. The guy who drove the airplane put his mother's name on the airplane.
Yeah, he did.
Enola Gay.
Yep.
That airplane took a nuclear bomb and dropped it on Hiroshima, Japan.
Yep.
Killed over 100,000 people. One swoop.
Civilians. Yep.
I've never heard any backlash. I've never heard any backlash about that.
None. I never heard any backlash about Truman deciding to use his fancy little weapon that he had. Because he just had to play with it. The way when I was a kid, I had to rush and get my little LJN wrestling figure. I had to play with his nice little new atomic bomb.
Yeah. But did you also know the very guy that oversaw the Manhattan Project, Leslie Groves, informed the president, you don't have to do this.
He did inform him.
You shouldn't do this.
He did inform him. He not only did he inform him, Stevie, he pleaded with him. He said, no, this is an act against humanity. That's really what it was. It was an act against humanity.
But he did it anyway. But going back to what you said,
the German chemists, we're talking about German. Otto Hahn and Fritz Strassmann, who helped develop it in theory, were against it. Albert Einstein was against it. Eugene Wigner was against it. Enrico Fermi was against it. Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Wait a minute. I got some
terms was against it.
I got something against Fermi though.
What's that?
Because you kind of got together with Albert Einstein and made everybody build the atomic bomb.
But what I'm saying is, they built the atomic bomb strictly for research purposes. What people lost, a name that doesn't get mentioned is again, this is literally during the Roosevelt regime. Okay, if we're talking about his administration, Vice President Henry Wallace, who's a name that's lost in history, nobody talks about Henry Wallace anymore.
Oh yeah, how they contrived to get him out of there because they knew as a vice president he would have never went for this kind of bullshit.
There you go.
Now ask me how I know that. Ask me how I know this.
Because
I don't even know. I don't even know how I know, but I know. You know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about you, though.
And you know something else? This guy would eventually be president.
Yeah, he would.
That guy would have eventually been president.
And that's the thing. Henry Wallace. See, again, Stevie. This is why I applaud you. Stevie Ray, by the way, guys, is the guy who decided to take it upon himself to learn the world he's in, which I respect highly. A lot of people don't decide to do that. You did.
Brother,
I do have to ask you, though, like back in the day in WCW, was that slapjack thing, like, was it a sock? What was it? What the hell was that?
That's a secret, man. If I tell you, I have to hit you over the head with it.
Okay, you got to kill me if I find out. Okay, I got it.
I have to knock you out. I wouldn't kill you.
I got that. Would you, is it fair to say that maybe if you were alive, you'd hit Harry S. Truman over the head with it?
Look, man, if you can become president and never go to college, what do you think?
Yeah. Harry S. Truman always wanted to be a tough guy because everyone in his family was a tough guy. He had an Napoleon complex, and as a result, just to wrap it up about the whole Hiroshima thing, as a result, and people talk about Hiroshima, nobody talks about Nagasaki. Nagasaki its population was mostly civilian.
Right. Right.
Do people realize that if you go right out to the memorial, you'll still see the shadows that were embedded across the streets?
Unbelievable.
There's shadows.
Well,
I know you've been in Japan, so you've been there. Yep.
Oh man. But before we go there, let's finish the Dwayne Rock Johnson thing.
Yeah, please.
I was just making a comparison how people jump on stuff, but yet they don't know there have been other instances with the same thing in the past.
Right.
Now this is a tank that may never be used in combat.
Right.
We don't even know.
Right.
And even if it was used in combat, it won't be fighting another army.
You're right about that.
I mean, this is just another ploy to get people. People don't realize, man, that the Army, Air Force, Marines, all these things are private entities.
Absolutely.
They need people to join them. So they will do anything they can, to make people join the regiment.
Absolutely.
It's a publicity ploy. And the mere fact that we're talking about it, or somebody, whether they liberal or conservative, actually came down on it, shows you that it worked.
It worked, but to the point where now, all of a sudden, as a citizen who pays his taxes, I'm sure Duane does, for you to be lambasted, for just speaking, being a little patriotic, and maybe that's who you are. That's maybe someone differs with you. But if you perceive yourself as being patriotic and you want to go ahead and make a comment like that, to have sponsors thinking about whether they should pull out of your brand.
That's unbelievable.
It's unreal.
But sponsors are puppets to the voice.
Yeah, I'm looking at one right now. He knows I'm kidding.
I mean, no, I'm just saying, a lot of sponsors got to do.
My sponsor here sitting across from me.
Oh, okay. Hey.
We're buddies. He's okay.
Tell him what's up. Tell him what's up.
Yeah, Stevie says.
But you got to realize, sponsors, man. Hey, somebody talking about not buying my products, brother. Hey, I got to do what I got to do. Sometimes they do.
It's just crazy.
Nobody wants it. What we call in the wrestling business, as you well know, nobody wants any heat.
And by the way, Stevie uses right guard. By the way, guys, just so you know.
Yes, I do.
He uses right guard. There you go.
Been using it for like 35 years.
Last little topic so we're going to talk about before we let you go. Stevie's got a really, so I got to fly out too, and Stevie's got a busy, but we're going to wrap this thing up with a couple of things. Really quickly, you're a native Texan, and this has nothing to do because you're a humanitarian, you care about people no matter where they're from. I get that. But did it kind of, a little thing, native Texan Chris Bosh, his career officially came to an end when they hung up his jersey. That kind of sad what happened to him, right? At a young age, had to retire, but again, he's alive.
Well, yeah, man, I mean, he's healthy. Chris has had the blood clot problems. And you know how those blood clot problems can evolve into heart problems and so on and so forth. And he's doing the right thing, man. I mean, it's a privilege to play in the NBA. And, when God gives you that kind of talent to play in the NBA, I mean, that's a blessing within itself, man. And I think he should just be, just like me. I'm just thankful I got a chance to do what that I loved for as long as I did it.
Right.
And that's all you can ask for. Sometimes when you're given, athletics talents, it's not the end of the world. Believe it or not, it's the beginning.
It's the beginning. And I mean, you speak, to me, you're a shining example of that. Other thing, too, that I wanted to talk about before we head out here is, do you feel, just NBA-wise, do you feel as if right now, Dwayne Wade's about to retire.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel as if athletes right now are sort of being lured into more of the promising alternate career of Hollywood and filmmaking, and a lot of passionate fans seem to say, well, wait a minute, why can't you be dedicated to the game? My opinion is you can do whatever the hell you want, but when you put yourself in a team mentality, and the team expects more of you, then you got to hold yourself accountable a little bit. Do you feel like the athlete, and here's my question because it's clear cut, do you feel like the athlete owes the team something? The athlete of today owes his team something.
When I'm paid to do a job, I'm going to do that job, and I'm going to try to do that job well and the best that I can do that job.
Right.
As far as employer to employee, that's where it starts, that's where it ends. Now, with all that being said, a lot of people in the industry of sports, which is entertainment also, and entertainment, when it comes to music, things of that nature, don't know their true power. When I'm talking about the African-American athlete and African-American entertainer, they don't know their true power.
Right.
For some reason or another, and that's why you hear me talk the way I do, I'm not an apologetic person. And I've studied my history in this country.
Absolutely.
As to how things are and how things used to be.
Absolutely.
You are strong in numbers. And as long as they have you feuding with each other, envious of each other, competing against each other on a daily basis, they got you. They can give you millions and millions and millions of dollars. Together, you could take those millions of dollars and build something very, very mighty and strong in this country, a country within a country, a community within a community. But divided, all those millions that you get, football players, baseball players, basketball players, actors and actresses, every single solitary dime goes back to the upper middle class and affluent in someone else's community.
Whew, wow. I mean, that's
so in essence, when we fall out over somebody's $100 million deal, the very guy that put things together, and it's like a legion of them, starts here, goes here, blah, 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 all the way back. They look at each other and shake their hands and say, we did our job. Look at that $100 million we just made for each other.
Right. I like the way, you simplified it in a way where I guess anyone could understand it, but the complexity of it is that when you think about the system itself, not changing anytime soon.
No.
It's a capitalist country.
You have to, for a community to grow, you have to look at your problem and everybody got to be in on it. The Nazi Party rose to power because they all believed in on it. Maybe that's a bad analogy, but they put themselves in position to compete against the Kaisers and so on and so forth.
It's not a bad analogy at all. If anything, propaganda at its worst, some might say at its best, birthright of propaganda began in Austria.
Right.
If people want to talk about the history, they can talk about where it began. And Prussia, not Russia, Prussia.
Which is a part of Germany, or the northern part of Germany.
Right, Austro-Hungary, right?
Yeah.
If you want to talk about the history of Austro-Hungary, that's where propaganda in its medium form that we see today began. When you make sure that there's a false narrative that plays on people's fears, and it allows them to pinpoint a singular issue as to why there's a problem, that's when media needs to take itself accountable. And media will never make itself accountable, but they've probably been, if you think about it, in the last 100 years, in the 20th century for sure, have been the leading cause for war, more so than race riots, more so than religious warfare.
Right.
And they stand idly back and report and document.
At the end of the day, as a people, and as you can just listen in my voice, I'm proud of who I am, what I am. And I will go out of my way to always be a soldier for what I believe in.
Right.
And I'm a soldier for my community.
You're a soldier, period. You're doing this interview with, we're co-hosting now, but you're doing this with like a raspy voice and you're a little sick.
But I'm just saying because I'm tired of people looking at us in a certain way because this is the picture that's painted of us. And we're way more than that. We made more than some hip-hop guy with tattoos all over his face.
Oh, undoubtedly.
We're way more than that.
Undoubtedly.
If you look at the arts and everything we've given to the arts, that's genius.
Undoubtedly.
And I'm not trying to take away from some of the best musicians in this country.
Yeah.
Jazz, opera, orchestra, stuff like that have been a culmination of different races of people, Yep. And that's what makes America strong.
You touched on it.
That's what makes America what it is, because you got so many different kind of people with last names like Rubenstein or Smith or Huffman, like myself. You know what I'm saying? And they come together and make magic.
Right.
From every walk of life and every part of this world. And I just feel as though I'm passionate about being excluded. And I would not, in all my power, I won't let that happen.
If you don't mind, just to serve some respect, I'm going to piggyback on what you said. Let's talk about something. Alexander Miles. Early elevators were different from what we have today, automated-wise, but guess who created elevator doors? Alexander Miles, African American.
I actually put out a deal on my Facebook that had all the inventions and different things that African Americans had attributed to the United States of America.
Elijah McCoy, I remember talking about him last month to my students. His invention, he enabled trains to run faster and more efficiently. Lewis Ladder. But yet, they're lost in time. It speaks on the fact that the portrayal of their inventions and innovation don't speak to the narrative of how the masses are portrayed. You want to talk about just in terms of the masses. When I say the masses, I just want people to understand when I say that. I'm not generalizing. I know that there's people that do take the time to learn and research, and great, bravo to you. But you certainly have to fight against the distractions of today that weren't prevalent yesterday. Because there's a lot of distractions today. There's a ton.
You ain't lying, brother, and that's the hard part, bro. And I hate to try to make the show about it, make me about, that's the only thing I'm thinking about is something like that.
This is your passion.
And,
this is your passion.
Right.
Why you shouldn't apologize for your passion? Not at all.
And what I'm just saying, I don't want people to think that's the only thing I think about. It's just the fact that certain things that we talk about today is related to it. And I have to put it out there. I let people know I'm no Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, that's for sure.
I'm no Oprah Winfrey. I don't kiss ass. I kick it.
Even though you're a big guy, you're a little lighter than her, so that's.
I'm just saying. I've never gone along to get along. And you ask anybody in the wrestling business, they will tell you that.
And what we're going to do now is we're going to sign off, each go our way, and then you want to let some of the fans and listeners know what you got going on the next.
I want everybody to know. Try to tune in for the WWE Hall of Fame this next weekend, which will be the 5th of April.
Yep.
And watch your boy give a speech.
And on the 6th,
that will
giving the speech on the 6th.
That will last all of 3 or 4 minutes.
Can I say something real quick?
Oh, hey, Jarrell. How are you, man?
Jarrell, what are you doing on? Hey, man, don't you come infiltrating. You don't infiltrate this podcast, man.
Yeah, we got to infiltrate over here.
Yeah, what's going on, man?
I'm good.
Everything we just did for the last 2 hours, keeping the show on our shoulders.
Not at all. Not at all. I appreciate that. I just wanted to before it ends.
You know what a wise man once said? You know what a wise man once said? Nothing.
You know what another wise man said?
What?
I'd become the destroyer of worlds.
Who was that?
You know who that was?
No.
Robert Oppenheimer.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Speaking of the Manhattan Project and speaking of the atom bomb, right?
Yeah, and speaking of Jarrell just popping in here like that.
Well, don't you remember wait, hold on. Isn't your name, Superman's dad? Wasn't he Jarrell?
Yes.
Yeah, and you see what happened to him? The whole planet blew up.
Fair point, but I couldn't let it in because I didn't get a chance to talk to you on the last one. And, before this one ended, I just had to say congratulations on the Hall of Fame.
Appreciate it.
I was we talked about this in the first one. I was a huge #1 Harlem Heat fan. I followed you guys through the whole thing.
I remember that. I remember that's what you told me because I was on the phone. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, especially like I said, I used to be in New York. I was still heartbroken when I found out you weren't from New York, but I will probably be one of the.
Guess what? Guess what? I want you to watch. Okay. I just got the script on it today, and you're gonna be the first person to talk about it. I want you to watch the Hall of Fame because I got a surprise for you with the Harlem Heat and the whole Harlem situation. I just got the script on it today, so you're the first one to learn about it. So, matter of fact, if I think about it, I might try to get your name in it. Let's just put a shout out at you.
There we go.
Okay? I'm serious.
I'd appreciate
I'm serious.
No, that'd be cool.
I got the script, but I don't know how much I can play with it. I got the script today.
Okay.
We know we can't plug wrestling with anything but, or the new show over here with Stevie Ray, Wrestling with History with Stevie Ray. But hey, see, there you go.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it because believe me, when that moment comes, when you guys are on stage, I will be the most focused, person glued into your Hall of Fame speech.
Hey man, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I really do.
No disrespect to anyone else who's going in, but I'm tuning into the Hall of Fame for Harlem Heat.
Hey man, I appreciate that, man. That really makes me feel like it's all been worth it, man. Thank you very much.
And what I have to say to sign off is just that, in my opinion, I don't need to watch. I'm going to watch it. I don't need to watch the WWE Network to watch the Hall of Fame to see Stevie Ray go up on a podium and address the masses, because to me, Stevie Ray, the Hall of Fame person, is someone I speak to all the time, and that's the guy that I'm proud to know and consider a friend. And that's what I have to say about that. Stevie Ray, the human being, is a Hall of Famer. Bottom line.
Hey man, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate that.
And what we're going to do is we're going to sign off, and what we're going to do is we're going to sign off and we're going to let you guys know this special segment. You're going to be hearing every Friday. Next weekend, Stevie's obviously going to be away, but after that point, it's going to be Wrestling with History with Stevie Ray, Avi Klein, and last but not least, Jarrell T. Williams, who just pops in whenever he wants to.
Hey, wait a minute, man. You didn't tell me he was going to be a part of the show.
Oh, no.
we got to
tell me that. Hey, man, you forgot to inform me of that.
Yeah, Jarrell.
Right out the mix. It's like we got to have a conversation after this one.
Yeah, man.
I gotta renegotiate my contract.
It's all good, man. It's all good with me.
Yeah. You have a positive weekend and a positive week next week, Stevie.
Yeah.
Okay, man. You guys have a good one, brother.
You too.
All right, bro.